Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Monday, January 19th, 2026. Time for another show, and I'm only barely back at the keyboard just in time to do it. As a matter of fact, I had to run and turn off a noise-making implement somewhere just seconds ago in the middle of the announcement that I was actually coming to the microphone, and I put the headphones back on, what I thought was the nick of time, and it was the nick of time, but it suddenly occurred to me, I don't know whether I've been announced or not yet. And now, like if I just start now and then the thing, and now, okay. But if he had said already, and now here's David Waldman, and I waited to hear it because I thought it hadn't come yet, I didn't know how long that was going to go on. I don't think there's any musical cues besides the voice in this thing. Anyway, it's not like I'm the only one who's gone insane or anything like that. It was a very busy weekend. A busy weekend for me that kept me mostly from gawking at the news, but I've seen it. You've seen it. It's crazy. Greg Dworkin is ready to talk about it, and I mean, we'll get to that. But let's see. I'm also watching any number of other reasons to believe that, well, several people are crazy, of course. It was a big saber-rattling weekend for Greenland. One of the issues that I think I put aside, I don't know whether we made mention of it on Friday, but yeah, I think so, as a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it. But I don't know if we got all the way through the article, but still, you should be reminded, or in case you maybe missed the show on Friday, there are joint exercises, and I don't know if it's NATO-wide. I think it's just sort of the Nordic NATO types, the Nordic types, anybody who's in NATO who's just tall and blonde and, has that kind of accent is going to be participating in some regularly scheduled, I think maybe, what's the word for it? Biennial? Is that every 2 years or so? I mean, exactly. But defense exercises, Arctic defense exercises, and, the usual suspects would be involved in that, the people up near the Arctic. We're not, but we put ourselves in every exercise because that's just kind of what we do. And everybody has learned to depend on it, and everybody has felt safe about that before, but now they don't. Because now it's still scheduled to go on. The exercises themselves, the live exercises, will begin March 9th. So I guess we should start watching the calendar and counting down to that. It's almost the end of January. The planning for the exercises, of course, happens years in advance. And the on-the-ground executional planning with commanding officers landing in the appropriate regions and getting ready for the live exercises has already begun. And the article that I think we got to on Friday asks the question of whether the defense chiefs of these various other participating nations are having to contemplate what should we do if we are in the company of 4,000 American Arctic trained soldiers and they should invade Greenland in the middle of this thing. Do we say, well, we're not in Greenland, so we'll just go on as scheduled and pretend nothing's happening? Is it, well, we'll wait for them to give some indication that they're hostile? I mean, I don't think any commander would say that. Let's just hang out here and then we'll all have guns, but we'll put ours down and see what they do with theirs. But then that puts them in the position of saying, we're going to, I guess, do we turn our guns on the Americans who are there to participate in this exercise with us for the defense of the northern regions? And that seems so crazy. But then again, at the same time, I'm sure they're saying, well, why are we here again? Training for the defense of the northern regions, the Arctic regions, and someone has just threatened that, and they're right here, and they're armed. I guess we should do something about it. So it's going to be an uncomfortable weekend for everybody, news-wise. It's an uncomfortable March coming up. We got about a month to hammer that out, a little extra. So, if you need to take some time off this week, like the Senate, for instance, I think you could probably manage a vacation or two before things get too crazy. All right, so Greg Dworkin has also been watching the news. I was a little busy with travel and family affairs, which was a lot of fun and good stuff. But and I'm glad it kind of kept me from reading the news. Well, Greg, maybe this it's so wacky out there. Maybe the hijinks are what's necessary for today. Who knows? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Good morning, Greg. How sad are you?
That seems appropriate enough.
Okay. Yeah, there's wackiness afoot. Oh, look, I see the weather report from Minneapolis. I guess it's maybe still dark there, but -9 degrees. If you have to go around and round
that's why they're
people
mobilizing the troops in Alaska.
Yes, that's true, right? And people
you can't
were
mobilize them
I
from
forgot
Texas.
That.
That would be kind of dumb. But Alaska,
yeah, they're not up to it.
Sense.
Yeah, they should be trained for this, and everybody then
I saw they're trained to take on Finland in case there's World War III.
Yeah. So now my question: I wonder how many of them, if any, were they scheduled to go on March 9th to? I'm not even certain where the exercises are taking place. It's not in Greenland.
Hawaii.
Yeah, you know what? They'd been better off. But I did see people say, if you're going to send your Alaskan troops to Minnesota and be saber rattling about Greenland, can we fight a two-front, northern war if our Arctic troops are in Minnesota? How are we going to pull this off? I mean, we can threaten.
Well, I think Rhode Island is safer now because you can't be everywhere at once.
Oh, yeah, that's true. And it's not nearly as cold, but I'm sure the biting winds are bothering people. Go to Duncan.
This is incredibly stupid. Why don't we try to summarize stupid as best we can?
Well, you can't. You can't fix stupid, but you can summarize it. AI can do that. Anyway. Yeah.
This is Mike Murphy. He says in 1 year, Trump has wounded the economy with dumb tariffs, given federal badges to profiling thugs.
Yes.
Fractured NATO, our most important alliance, declared loony war on Federal Reserve, grabbed foreign oil, screwed his own voters over health care, lied, grifted, and became even more crazy, and I would add, and also sat on the Epstein files. So, it's been a very good year for Trump so far.
Yes. Jeffrey Epstein. Thank you.
Yeah. The congressional delegations don't see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. And I have to point out, and I did on Twitter this morning, this obvious thing, which is to say congressional Republicans are so incredibly useless, they simply cannot do anything about anything. And it's scary stupid. Steve Scalise was on Fox News attacking Democrats and says Democrats are doing everything they can to try to stop the America First agenda. They're trying to impeach Secretary Noem and other members of President Trump's cabinet, and they'll impeach President Trump again the next chance they get. Where's the lie?
Yeah. I don't know. Everywhere? It could be everywhere.
So Jim McGovern saw that and said, listen, the twice impeached convicted felon you guys worship gave $40 billion to Argentina, let Qatar build an air base in Idaho, wants to screw over U.S. ranchers for importing beef from South America, attack Venezuela, threatens to invade Greenland, and threw a party for a Saudi prince who murdered an American journalist. Meanwhile, you refuse to schedule a vote to stop healthcare premiums from tripling in our country. That's America First?
That doesn't seem like it. Not really a lot. It must be over my head.
It must be. Or in the gutter, either one. So the craziness reached, I think, peak crazy as Trump sent this incredibly insane letter to the Norwegian Prime Minister.
Yes.
And a reminder to people, I had to look it up because I had forgotten, Sweden awards the Nobel Prizes except for the Peace Prize, which comes out of Norway.
Yeah, straight out of Norway. I don't know. Yes, that's true.
President Trump has asked the following message shared with Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Store.
I'm sure.
Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but now think about what's good and proper for the United States of America. Denmark can't protect that land from Russia or China, and why do they have a right of ownership anyway? There's no written documents.
Paperwork?
It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago, but we had boats. I had done more for NATO than any other person since its founding, and now NATO should do something for the United States. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland, But that's written in invisible ink. You can X that out and put Canada, and then you could put Rhode Island, anything you want. Thank you, President Donald Trump. He's nuts.
Yes. On a number of fronts. I will say I am surprised. This must have happened a long time ago. Someone obviously has told him, yeah, the Norwegians handle this one prize. And I'm just amazed that he knows that or has gotten through his. He may not know that Sweden handles the others, and he doesn't care because he's not going to win those, even though he's very smart and brilliant and he had an uncle. So,
went to MIT or something.
Yes, right. Anyway, I mean, I don't know what you do with that. He's the prime minister has responded after a fashion, not to Donald Trump. I mean, nobody's crazy enough to do that, but basically talking to the press and saying, yeah, I mean, I don't want to tell you that he's really making things difficult. It's not that much of a response, but it is there. He has seen it. It's real. People spent the first couple of hours wondering, is this a joke? You know, like with most things that he does. But no, he has done this.
Well, that's the thing. 90% of what Trump does is bluster. But
Yes.
The 10% really is dangerous, and that's the problem. You can't figure out whether to take this, to heart because you just never know what he's talking about. Well, he's using it as a tool to threaten Denmark, so Denmark negotiates and sells him Greenland. But what if he doesn't work and Denmark doesn't want to sell Greenland, and Greenland doesn't want to be sold? What then?
Yes.
Well, then we'll invade Canada because we can.
I guess
Well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, then that makes
sure
sense.
it does.
I feel like it.
Makes lots of sense. Yeah, I
talked
don't know.
I talked to my desk, and my desk
worst.
told me to do this because it advises me.
At least there's that. You did at least have that discussion. I don't know what to tell you about his continuing obsession with it. I'm seeing a lot of people theorizing that, by the way, that he thinks it's much bigger and much more important than it is. And that it might be because he sees it on a flat, Mercator projection map and people pointing out it's not as big. But it's big. It's covered in ice. But, the periphery of it has some non-ice covered areres.
We bought Greenland. Do you know how many cocktails we could make?
It's true, actually. Yeah, when we visited Iceland, those very
You
dense.
go to Iceland and they sell you the cocktails with the ice that came from the glacier.
Yeah, we harvested some of that, some of those little ice.
David and I didn't go
pellets in
together,
there.
but his trip
No.
inspired me, so I went. And,
It was
they do that.
good fun and a good thing we did it, and because apparently I should have put this one aside, but it was just I don't know, so, as a random type thing, but by an American official, I think one of the crazier former Congress people, maybe who's now an ambassador to something, and I'll look it up, see if I can find it. Note to self, I'll never get to it. Had said, once we get Greenland, it only makes sense then the next strategic thing we need, obviously, if we're going to put bases there, is we should have Iceland too. What is Iceland doing out there as an independent nation? That should be American as well.
Is this one of those Republican congressmen who got convicted of fraud and had a choice of either going to jail or getting pardoned and becoming an ambassador?
Right, yeah. You used to be able to join the Foreign Legion to get out of your jail sentence. Now you become an ambassador. I don't know. It was either convicted of fraud or possibly sexual misconduct. I think basically it's two sides of the coin. I wanted to flip it. Yeah, heads it was sexual misconduct and tails it was fraud. Wow. I don't want to derail things, but it's you're beginning to remind me of things. I'll let you go on. I'm making notes to myself.
Well, this is all freeform today. It's Monday.
Okay.
And therefore there weren't any elections yesterday to structure us.
They're coming tomorrow.
The Fox News poll, pretty accurate, even though Fox News is awful. And you have to keep that in mind when you look at the CBS poll that came out yesterday. Even though CBS News is now awful, just as awful as Fox News.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
But the CBS poll comes out and says, do you approve or disapprove of U.S. using military force to take Greenland?
Yeah.
This is interesting. Disapprove 86, approve 14.
Yeah.
We've never seen anything as low as 14% in this era of polarization.
Yeah,
you could
that's
get
true.
28% just by waking up and saying, I'm a Republican.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they ask the dumbest questions and they'll get...
Only 14% think this is a good idea.
That's true. So you've
One
lost
of which is Ted
half...
Cruz, but like the 13 other people in his family, I mean, who else?
Right. Well, yeah, because we've remarked on a number of times, the craziest proposition you could put forward, 25% of the populace will say, yeah, sure to it, no matter how crazy it is. And so 10% of them, or half of them, 50% of the 25%, not quite, but are taking a walk on this one. That's really something.
Well,
into
Democrats,
the ocean,
97-3 disapprove. Independents, 90-10 disapprove.
Mm-hmm.
And Republicans, 70-30 disapprove.
That's the usual full population breakdown. But even just among Republicans.
Just among Republicans, 70-30.
Okay.
Bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean...
86%
that won't stop
say
them,
don't use military force. 70% say don't even buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Now...
box tops.
Don Bacon and
reward
Lisa
points.
Murkowski have both said that if Trump invades Greenland, he's gone. He's impeached. We're doing that.
Okay. I got to tell you, that's changing my mind. Invade Greenland. Go.
Yeah,
kind of like,
first thought
we'll
is
give it
sorry,
back.
Greenland, but we need to invade you because we need to get this guy out
Wait,
of here.
that's it. Right. You know what? I am now on board with we need Greenland for national security reasons.
Right. And apologize. But
Shoot,
look,
I am very sorry.
And now I understand why.
Right. Yeah, you will believe it. All right. That's... I don't want to endorse that outright, but wink, wink.
I mean, there's some stunning things. Hey, you want to hear something that's...
I'm for it now.
That's shocking but not surprising?
Yes. Does that shock or surprise you that I want to hear it? No.
Bill Cassidy's running for re-election.
That is shocking.
There's a Republican named Letlow, female... I don't know what she is, if she's a congresswoman or a state legislator. I don't know.
All right,
I don't even know who she is.
All right.
But Trump likes her and says, you should
kidding.
run because if you run against Bill Cassidy, I will endorse you.
Okay. Oh.
Bill Cassidy said, wait a minute. I
know
prostituted myself in order to get RFK Jr. and get back in your good graces after voting to impeach you.
Mm.
And you...
Me
are endorsing my opponent.
Yes.
She's a representative from Louisiana. Her
she
name
is
Representative Julia Letlow.
I remember her now. She is, I mean, this historically does happen. She is, I guess you could say, and she's in Congress by virtue of having been married to someone who actually was in Congress and he died. But I can't even say that. He didn't actually make it to Congress. This was Luke Letlow's widow, or is Luke Letlow's. Luke Letlow ran and won a seat in Louisiana at the height of, early side pandemic. And of course, running as a Republican, this is all crap. It's all baloney. They're making it. It's just like the flu. I'm not wearing any mask. Dead. It won the election.
He was elected. He was elected, then he died.
Died between November and
chance to serve.
Yes, he didn't get sworn in, and then they were like, "Well, I guess we'll elect. We'll have a special election," and everybody's shocked and sad. And so his wife ran, and she may have her own political career on top of all that. I really don't know. That frequently does happen as well. So
it doesn't matter.
It's not
Trump.
just
he needs a vehicle.
Right.
I know Julia well, have seen her tested at the highest and most difficult levels, and she is a total winner. Run, Julie, run.
She's going to vote against something. She's a total loser. Oh, well.
Right. But, he wants somebody to run against Cassidy because he hates Cassidy because Cassidy voted to impeach him, and, Trump never forgets a slight. And Cassidy thought that by killing babies in the United States, he would somehow worm his way into Trump's support. And he killed babies by being the key vote that allowed RFK Jr. to take over HHS and gut CDC, for which he will never, ever recover in terms of reputation. And so as a result of his sucking up and losing, he's going to have his career destroyed by somebody just for cause. Julie Roginski writes on Twitter, let this be a lesson to every other Republican. Bill Cassidy violated his oath as a doctor, which is why I'm so angry with him. He knows better.
Okay.
Voted to confirm RFK Jr., even though he knew it would lead to mass death. And Trump is still ending his career.
Yeah. Oof. Okay.
How do you recover from that? I mean, my low opinion of Republicans couldn't get any lower until I think about Bill Cassidy. And then I think, oh, yeah, it can go a lot lower.
Yeah. Well, golly.
For senator, I would say, he's won that prize.
Really?
He's earned it.
Okay. Well, he certainly made you mad. It gets brought up all the time, and in the RFK Jr. context. But yes, okay, good. Now adding fighting with Trump to the list, and it'd be interesting to see what happens. Louisiana's pretty weird. The Louisiana Republicans, I don't know. Are they familiar enough with Letlow to care? It's not going to be on the merits.
Well, they're familiar enough with Cassidy to vote against them.
I guess, although, they're so weird and
voted
strident.
to impeach Trump. That's all she has to say.
I guess so.
And Louisiana Republicans will go, okay.
Yeah. Now he could, he's in no position to run against her and say, well, she supports the COVID vaccine, but he's a doctor. He does too.
Well, maybe she doesn't.
Well, she does, or she has. I was just looking on her Wikipedia page. It reminded me of that. Like, okay, well, my husband just died of COVID. Okay, I am in favor of the vaccine. We should all get that.
Did she say that, or did she say this is a sacrifice that Republicans simply have to make for the good
She
of the
may
Republic?
have said that after she got on board and then met with Trump, but early on she was willing to say.
Yeah, we'll ask her about it now.
Boo-hoo.
That's what I say.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this was on Yahoo News from a site called Blast. I don't know anything about it. That's not the point.
Blast.
It was on Yahoo, and so this is like seeing it on Parade Magazine or People Magazine when you're at the checkout counter.
They're doing well these days. Okay.
Tony DeCopel's debut at CBS News sparks, quote, real concern, end quote, as ratings plummet amid replacement rumors. Since we mentioned CBS in their poll, we should mention CBS itself.
Sure.
Tony DeCopel's tenure at CBS Evening News anchor may be short-lived. Okay, yes. This is not exactly the most reliable source ever, but that's not the point. This is what
Yahoo?
Eyeballs are seeing, and eyeballs are not seeing the news because nobody's watching him. Since his debut, the show's ratings have continued to struggle, and reports have emerged claiming that network executives are considering replacing the veteran news anchor.
All right.
It's been like, what, 8 hours?
Yeah, I mean, they give him a week, which is fine if you want to create controversy. I don't mind.
Well, they put all sorts of money behind it and promos, and they got...
Did they do the whiskey
thing? The viewership was down 23% from the same week last year. Another poor trend that further highlights the show's struggle.
Yeah.
According to a source who spoke with Shooter Scoop, Rob Shooter, the segment is barely pulling half of ABC and NBC in the key 25 to 54 demo, which I always laugh when I see. The key 25 to 54 demo is like 15 people because the people that watch evening news are over 65 like me.
Yeah,
and that's why every single ad is a medication.
It's unusual to for me to think of 25-year-olds in the CBS Evening News. Like, I'm not even certain they know that. Well, I was going to say I'm not certain that they know that networks like present the news every evening. I'm also not certain they really fully grasp, networks at this point.
Well, they don't, because Barry Weiss is completely incompetent.
Well, she's ruined what they had, but
there's a whole New Yorker magazine profile of her, where she came from, how she rose, how she alienates everybody, describing her as conniving and hardly thoughtful. But this article from Yahoo goes on to say people are already talking about who could replace him if this slump continues. A different source said. They continued about the alleged chatter. There's real concern that the audience isn't buying what he's selling. And then the next subheading is Tony DeCopel's bold debut promo alienated the core audience. Well, hello. This is the fifth change in anchor at CBS Evening News since 2017. A lot has changed since the first person sat in this chair, he said, per the Los Angeles Times. But for me, the biggest difference is people do not trust us like they used to, and it's not just us. It's all of legacy media.
No,
the point is, too many stories, the press has missed the story because we've taken into account the perspective of advocates and not the average American. This is the point of view he has. He's a complete moron.
That doesn't sound like it's going to get any better. I heard the rumor that they were going to do Whiskey
Ted
Friday.
Danson, the anchor, the news anchor, and Mary Tyler Moore. I mean, this is like It's All About Me. Where's my mirror?
I don't get it. I don't know where they're going with this. They could change. I'm surprised they're not going to have an AI anchor at this point. People just, I guess, I bet you could get that past the board of directors, or something along those lines. They'd probably go for it. I don't know why. I don't know whether they're really going to replace him. It is kind of crazy to do a week's worth. It really is like a week or maybe two, possibly 2 weeks that he's been in this position, and they're already. But people are very impatient and weird, especially if they're in it for the money. So I don't know. We'll wait and see. I saw the rumor that they were doing a Whiskey Friday thing, and I didn't specifically say they were really going to launch it last Friday, but I also did not check to see, although I kind of would be interested in some train wreck footage after the fact if it did happen, but I think it hasn't happened yet. I don't know whether it was ever real, but they were going to. Did you hear that rumor? That they were doing, they were floating this idea like people will watch the news if we, bring it up to date. We'll have Whiskey Friday, and they're like the set is decorated to look like some kind of saloon or something. And
well, more importantly, we'll get sponsors. I don't know what he does with it.
That's
remember
what he
when we talked about the old Mary Tyler Moore show
and
Dick Van Dyke and how they used to put products right there where you could see.
Yeah.
They want to go back to those days.
Yeah, apparently, because I think the set design that leaked, the proposed set design had said sponsored by Jack Daniels, and Jack Daniels ran to the nearest microphone, weaved a little bit, but to announce we have nothing to do with this. We're not doing this. We're not sponsoring it. Don't look to us for money. Don't put our name on it. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. We're drunk and we know it's a bad idea. So. This sort of thing. So I was wondering whether that was even a real plan, but to fire him before our first Whiskey Friday, I really, unless they're putting Floyd from like the Andy Griffith show in as the new anchor, that could be. All right. Well, we'll be right back after a couple drinks. Otis, that's it.
Hi, I'm Scott Anderson, the guy that writes the daily summary for this show, Kagro in the Morning. Thank you to everyone that supports this show. Many of you send donations through PayPal, Patreon, Square Cash, Radio Public, and so on. Some of you write your own essays and send them in, or read articles with your own commentary. We appreciate it. Now, some of you are listening to this and thinking, I'd like to help, but isn't there something I could do that wouldn't require money or effort? Why, yes, there is. You can just like us. On Daily Kos, they call it the recommend button. YouTube has a thumbs up. There are hearts and likes and love buttons. Tap our love button. Tap our love button every day. Share our shows and summaries on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube and iTunes, Stitcher and Amazon. Most of these places allow you to write a review, so a sentence or two would be great. Recommend us to social media, or tell your friends to listen to the show. You aren't just helping us, you're helping them find their new favorite thing to listen to. You could change the world. So thank you in advance from me and everybody else in the world.
All right, welcome back to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Net Roots Radio. We continue rolling on. By the way, I have to apologize to poor Floyd the Barber from Mayberry, who I confused with the town drunk Otis. I don't know. That was, and by the way, it was back in the days when you could get away with a character and being referred to as the town drunk too. Like, excuse me, this is an affliction, and it's true. But back in the day, they treated it as something different. So I'm going with the original intent. Him nice.
Everybody was nice.
Sure, they took care of him.
Place to sleep,
Right. I mean, they could have kicked him out.
That's what you do in a small town. You take care of your nutty people.
But poor Floyd the Barber, I'm sure, sober as a judge, taking his professional responsibilities seriously. And I've told everybody he's drunk. And, I mean, the haircuts look like everything appears straight. I don't know. He could have been a secret drunk. We don't know. That would have been very small town as well. Anyway, that's not what happened.
This is somebody mentioning on Twitter, here's a serious answer to what's going on with Greenland. Trump will give a tiny concession like so many trade deals, scare quotes around deals, and will declare victory, and his war boys will say we were all hysterical for thinking he would really invade, and Europe is going to go on seeking arrangement.com and search for how to speak to President Xi.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the optimistic view you were saying.
Yeah, that's what Benji Sarlin said. That's
All
the
right.
optimistic view. The
Good.
pessimistic view is we're in 25th Amendment territory in plain sight, which I think is probably more likely the truth.
Yes, I mean, that's not to say
Or
that you
they
think
both
that
can be
you'll
true.
get those votes, but this is what we should be doing. But our cabinet is almost as crazy as he is.
Murkowski, Don Bacon, congressional Republicans claim that that's what will happen. I just don't trust them because they fold so often.
Yeah, and it's not up to them. 25th
Fold
Amendment
more
isn't
often than
up
a
to
cheap
them.
card table, as the old saying goes.
Yeah. 25th Amendment is something by operation of the cabinet, and I mean, I think those guys are, way in the tank. Unless somehow, like, maybe there's secret meetings where J.D. Vance says, I'll give you a million crypto coins or whatever he would bribe people with.
I won't kill you if you vote for me.
Basically,
because I'm going to be the president next time around, and I will kill you.
That's what he thinks. Yeah.
So, CNN poll out this morning. Just 6% of Americans satisfied with how much the U.S. has released from the Epstein files.
More of a percentage are satisfied than files been released, though. So
more has been satisfied than more unsatisfied than they are unsatisfied about Greenland.
Yeah, he's
I thought
way underwater on these
14%
things.
was a low number.
Yeah.
To be on Trump's side, but 6%?
Yeah.
That's even lower.
It
42% of Republicans say the Trump administration is intentionally holding back Epstein info that should be released.
Yes.
Duh.
Well,
34% say it's making an effort to release all information possible. These are Republicans.
Well, they're working to make it possible.
Americans overall favor the first option, releasing everything, 67 to 16.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just 16%. I mean, these are lower than Nixon levels. This is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I'd hope for more to happen.
Independents, 9 in 10 Democrats.
If only there was some mechanism by which we could translate the popular will into governance.
Just 12% of Republicans say they're satisfied with the information released. And that includes 3% of Democrats and 3% of independents in the poll, but just 12% of Republicans.
Yes, but that's because they think you're not releasing all the bad information about all the Democrats. Hurry up.
Right. Now, Republicans will say, I'm not satisfied, but there's probably nothing in there.
Not about my guy. He's on the up and up.
Right. Democrats have moved in the opposite direction. 71% call themselves dissatisfied, up from 56% in July. So, yes, It's partisan, but that's not really the point. You can get some Republicans to back anything, and the Republican line is going to be, well, I know they haven't released it, but there's nothing in there. Who cares? Let's move on. We have more important things to talk about. That's what Lauren Boebert is saying. War and peace. We have war and peace issues.
Beetlejuice.
We gotta do something about Greenland.
Sure, I guess so. We're now returning to the very sane Lauren Boebert about this.
Why do we have to do something? Well, people keep asking her, what about the Epstein files? You were one of the 4 people that signed that discharge petition. I'm done with it, she said.
I voted. I did the thing. I went to Beetlejuice. What else do you want to know?
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy. Okay. I will say one thing about threatening to invade Greenland that's very pleasant is all the photography of beautiful Greenland scenes, and we're getting it all, I guess. It all. By the way, weird response to the whole thing. Bernie Sanders had an odd tweet, maybe, that he put out, and really just so missing the point, which is, I don't know. It was a little unusual. He's usually, but he said, well, if the United States invades Greenland, if we get Greenland, will all Americans get all the social benefits the Danish people get? They get this and there's this safety net. And no, that's not ever the way an invasion works. Usually, by the way, invading a place makes it worse. But it was just an odd. He wanted to make a point about the social safety net in Denmark and in Europe, Northern Europe generally, versus ours. And it's always a story, but it was the weirdest, most tone-deaf thing when the easy answer was right there. But okay.
Right. Speaking of weird, there's a fellow named Kevin May on Twitter who collects all of these artificial intelligence induced the pictures of Trump trying to get people to give him their medals, trophies, and stuff.
Okay, I've seen a couple.
You remember the famous picture of Trump yelling at the kid who was mowing his lawn?
Right.
And the caption now is, "You got any trophies to give me?" You know, that sort of thing.
Yes.
But there's one that I can't stop laughing at. It's Obama, much taller than Trump, dangling his Peace Prize medal as Trump is trying to reach it and can't reach it because Obama's holding it over his head with Obama laughing. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's a good
And that
one.
about summarizes what's going on here. It's just so stupid. It's ridiculous. It is stupid.
I saw him participating in the Star Wars medal ceremony. So, all sorts of good ones.
Or winning the Best of Show, the KC Dog Show. I mean, you name it. It just Tony's collecting these. Kevin May is collecting these, and they're really, really funny.
All right.
But sad.
Yes. He seems intent. So he's got his hands on the medal. Machado did hand it over in a frame and everything.
Yeah, and the Nobel Prize Committee said you can't do that. It doesn't count.
Right.
And they just reiterated that.
Oh, I found the guy. Who is this? Iceland, the Iceland thing. Billy Long. Yeah, former
Billy
congressman.
Long.
Right.
Oh,
okay.
yeah. That's the auctioneer, right?
Yeah, I think so. And maybe are we auctioning off Iceland, or are we just invading it straight up? But by the way, I'll say this: if he's an ambassador, he's just said, after Greenland, we're going to take Iceland. What would be the worst place to appoint him ambassador? Do you have a guess? If we take Greenland, Iceland is next. What country should we not send him to? Iceland, obviously. I would think it's fairly straightforward, right?
Probably true.
That would probably be the worst one. I'm not saying who has the worst climate and where will he be the most uncomfortable. Not that. But yeah, you're the pending, I guess.
So what's he doing right now?
I don't know. Let me look. Billy Long, former U.S. representative. I'm thinking he's maybe he went back to auctioneering. He's maybe lobbying now, or lobbying for himself to get this job.
He used to run IRS.
Yeah. Where are we on him? I don't know. Well, I'll go look him up, see what he's doing now. My guess is having a large breakfast by the looks of things, but I don't know.
Well, the internet tells me he was named best auctioneer in the Ozarks for 7 years in a row, so that's...
Well, that is. That's legit pinnacle of your career stuff. That may in fact be the pinnacle of his career. So the Guardian had this story, and he said Iceland will be the 52nd state. I don't know whether Greenland will be the 51st or whether we're still on Canada, and we'll skip over statehood for Greenland and make Iceland 52nd or what. But I don't think anybody needs the details on that.
Well, he was nominated to be the ambassador.
Yes. So paperwork. Let him just go. Maybe you can be the acting ambassador, I guess, and just go, and then the courts will recall him and say nobody ever signed the paperwork. You'll have to come back.
Why don't we do it the other way around? Since we don't want to send this jerk to Iceland, given his views on things, why don't we make him the ambassador to acting Iceland?
Oh, that could be. Yeah.
Why do we have to make the official the acting? Well, why don't we make the thing the acting?
That's not
because it is all acting anyway.
That's true.
We don't want him in the actual.
If there were some way to divert the plane and just land it in a frozen wasteland somewhere that's not Iceland and just say, welcome to Iceland, and play act the whole thing like I don't know, the Truman Show. And he just says, I guess I'm an ambassador to Iceland now, and it would be harmless. What else? He's not going to. I bet he wouldn't know the difference. I don't know what he's doing right now, though. That is a good question. Now that he's ordinarily, I would say he's now talked himself out of the confirmation, but I guess maybe
that wouldn't take very long.
That's the opposite.
He's an auctioneer.
Yeah, that's true too. I can't believe they haven't finished his nomination. His speech is going to be very short.
Can you imagine if he did this show with you?
It would be over in
15 minutes.
I guess so. I don't know. All right. Well, at any rate, there you go. So that's the guy who was threatening it, and everybody is forced to treat it as I mean, if he were ambassador to something else, everyone would just say he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just being supportive of Trump. But you can't send the guy. He's on his way there as
a jerk.
Yeah, on his way there as ambassador. Oh, by the way, I'm here to conquer you. Shoot, that's not going to work.
Anyway, just a reminder of what else is going on here. G. Elliot Morris notes Americans say Trump has the wrong priorities. According to polls, Politico says Trump is losing his war on offshore wind because the courts won't let him do what he wants to do. The New York Times says DHS's role is questioned as immigration officers flood U.S. cities, pushback from people. Yeah. And just a reminder to me, people talk about abolish ICE, even Ruben Gallego and other moderates, in red areas are saying, look, this is what people want. It's just time. This is like over the line here. Maybe it's DHS that needs to be abolished, not ICE.
That's, that makes sense. They, too, are a latter-day creation. It doesn't make any particular sense. Everybody was all Democrats were a little nervous about it from the get-go. They certainly haven't covered themselves in glory. And appropriations time is coming up. Well, by the way, something like a week and a half here. Next Friday. Yeah. That is to say, a week from this coming Friday will be the that's the expiration of the current continuing resolution that's got the government back open after the last shutdown, and they're not done with their appropriations yet, although they've been working. I was going to say working diligently because I was just reflexively saying that, but they've been working toward getting these things done, and they may in fact have some sort of omnibus that they can jam through to fund some portion of the remaining unfunded departments. But Democrats are, putting up a fight over DHS funding right now, saying there can't be any money appropriated for the DHS bill, given what's going on here. We got to have answers and discipline.
Minnesota, right. The 60 Minutes segment on CCOT finally aired last night.
Yes.
And I didn't watch it because I'm not watching CBS News. But, I saw some of the images that came out of there. It looks like Abu Ghraib. It's just awful.
Yeah.
And so the idea, I'm sending you one of the images right now. And
I will look.
That being the case, there are people, moderates like Tim Kaine and others, who are just saying, Chris Van Hollen is the one that I saw.
Yeah.
No money for ICE.
Yeah.
Just not one dime. Can't do it. I mean, so
nobody's going to feel good about voting
yes.
is
you couldn't get defund ICE to go anywhere until Stephen Miller took charge.
Yeah. Well, he's made it popular.
Now he's made it popular.
Yes.
Anyway, that's basically my Monday summary of all this stuff. Okay. And as usual, it's 45 minutes because
that's about right.
Stuff. It's shorter.
Yeah. There's so many things, it's hardly worth talking about them. This morning I did see, I guess they got Alina Habba on TV somehow. Oh. I guess because she's not busy, she's no longer U.S. Attorney for New Jersey. Although they do seem to be inclined to just continue fighting that battle. Lindsay Halligan has been told in no uncertain terms. Judges are actually saying to her every time she shows up, you need to, before you say another word, I need you to file a pleading with me. Why should I recognize you in court as the U.S. Attorney? You're not. And she keeps insisting that she isn't, and she's going to, I don't know how she's going to handle it. But Alina Habba had some time on her hands and went on Fox News to talk about Minneapolis and Jacob Fry in particular. I just happened to notice it says Aaron Rupar captured her saying, we have a mayor who's a Somali sympathizer, which why not? But we've seen, she says, dancing around on stage with their flag instead of an American flag. I just wanted to point out that my little Twitter photo files here are filled with pictures of Donald Trump dancing around on stage with Saudi Arabian flags a couple of times, several years apart. But whatever, it won't bother Alina Habba, but it gives me a chance to segue over later on to what's happening with Lindsay Halligan and a few of our other favorites like John A. Sarconi III in the Northern District of New York, also likewise being booted by the local judiciary.
Right.
So,
well, as I leave, I just thought I'd drop you some more uplifting pieces. There's two. One is Terry Moran on Martin Luther King, the right to protest, and
we should
Heather
do that.
Cox Richardson on Heroes, also about Martin Luther King, this being the day that it is. So
yes, we did not even talk about that.
I don't want to neglect that. It's just this,
Thank
all
you.
this other stuff's going on.
Yes, I did neglect it. I wrote it in the post this morning on Daily Kos. I remembered as I noticed everything was closed. Oh yes, right. Well, thank you. But yeah, thanks for bringing it up because I mean, I think this is one of those days where you get to say, I believe that if Dr. Martin Luther King were here today, he would also say this is no good. This time I'm fairly certain he would be against the invasion of Greenland. And the funny thing is that somebody out there somewhere is saying, writing a column that he was really a Republican and he would have supported the annexation of Greenland.
Well, I grew up with Martin Luther King and people like figures like Father Drinan, from Massachusetts, who was in Congress. Where religion meant something.
Yeah. That was it was once a big deal.
It's just weird to watch what people have done with it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess that was
Where's your moral background?
A lot of...
what would Jesus do? Oh, you must be a communist for asking that kind of question.
Now, yeah, you get that treatment. Yes, well, it's been a long time coming, and of course we knew this was all predicted, I suppose, wrapping... Bibles and wrapped in a flag, carried across, wrapped in a flag.
And then selling them.
Yeah, but very quickly, like an auctioneer.
Yeah.
So that's the good news. Okay.
In any case, that's my show for today, and we'll be back
Excellent.
Wednesday. And,
yes.
We got 6 inches of snow over the last 36 hours, and we're getting a foot on Sunday, so we'll see if we can keep up.
Okay, yeah. We'll see what that does for Monday broadcast.
I guess I have to worry about troops from Alaska.
Right, that may be.
They may come to my backyard to train.
Maybe they're flying in on a cloud. It's new technology.
The deer and the fox and the bear and everything else.
Well, yes, pretty interesting winter weather. A little bit of snow on my weekend, but we're all clear here now in Virginia. But it's going to get cold, so bundle up.
Alrighty,
Thanks,
take care,
Greg.
and I'll see you on Wednesday.
All right, we'll do it that way. All right, we got lots to catch up on and no real way to get a grip on any of it. It's all just that insane. Let me see what else I have put aside here. I mean, I think we did read the text, or at least discuss the text of Trump's letter to the Prime Minister of Norway. But certainly we got the gist of him being mostly adjudged crazy for having done so. All right. So let's see. We got all sorts of things happening in the courts, in and around the courts. And let me see if I can scroll down. It's now kind of, buried along the way. And a couple of other pieces of flotsam and jetsam in the way of finding what's going on with Lindsay Halligan. Lindsay Halligan is the one of the the alleged acting U.S. attorneys who's putting up the biggest fight about not actually being that. I guess I don't know how else to put this here. And there was a cluster of articles I had from, I don't know how many days ago. Let me start down at the bottom of the pile of them here from NBC News, January 12th. So what's today? The 19th. So it's about a week, and we really didn't get a chance to discuss any of it. But I'm sure I came out of the weekend last week thinking, oh yeah, Monday's going to be all about Lindsay Halligan, top attorney. That's what they call her. She's an attorney. I don't know about this top business, but top attorney dismissed in prosecutor's office run by Lindsay Halligan. And now we don't mean Lindsay Halligan. They mean the actual top attorney there, the person who I guess would be at least in the role. Are they in the role of acting U.S. attorney in the absence of any court's willingness to recognize Halligan as such. So this is a slightly different angle here, but Robert McBride is among the many thousands of people, I would say, departing the Justice Department at this particular moment. Robert McBride departs as the Justice Department continues to insist that Halligan is in charge, though a judge has said she was wrongly appointed. And you know how it is with Trump and paperwork. Let's see, Michael Koznar and Ryan J. Riley put this article together way back a week ago in ancient times. A top federal attorney is out of his job in the embattled Eastern District of Virginia, which sought to prosecute two of Donald Trump's perceived political enemies before the cases were dismissed. Four people familiar with the matter told NBC News on Monday. And of course, the week in between seems like a month, because then they moved on in the last week to attempting to put together a trumped up, get it? And I do mean that, trumped up charge against Jerome Powell, though that would be in D.C. with Box Wine Otis Jeanine Pirro. And she's already, I think, wrecked that case. Anyway, the move to oust Robert McBride came as the Justice Department continues to say that Trump loyalist Lindsay Halligan is the head of that office. A judge has pushed the administration to explain why it continues to refer to her as such, the people said. And it's true, they have asked that question. I think that's part of what else is in Instapaper here about her. A federal judge determined in November that Halligan was wrongly appointed and then dismissed criminal cases that her office had brought against, for instance, former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Four other appointments of acting U.S. attorneys have also been ruled unlawful. So I don't even know if I had that running total. Four other ones, that makes five. And a couple days before this article was printed, the fifth one was named. And the one pictured is our favorite, John A. Sarconi, III. And he's definitely among the number we had counted. Who else? Do they run down the list in this thing? Because I don't think I could name all five. There was, let's see, in her ruling, the judge noted that since August, courts in New Jersey, so that's Alina Habba, Nevada, I forget who that is, California, I don't think I even knew that one, have all held that the, acting U.S. attorneys in those states lacked lawful authority. Another federal judge found the acting U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Lindsay Halligan, serving unlawfully as well. So still that's only, let's say, New Jersey, Nevada, California, Halligan, right, and then Sarconi. I. Sure. Anyway, so there you go. There's five, and we could click on the links. I guess we should find out who are these people. Nevada involves a federal judge ruling that Sigal Chattah is unlawfully serving as Nevada's U.S. attorney. And in California, let's see, another federal judge, Trump appointee Bilal Essaili, is that right? Essaili, Essayli, unlawfully assumed the post after resigning in July as interim U.S. attorney. I guess they did the same thing. They made him interim. His interim term ran out. Then he resigned, and he must have tried the weird Alina Habba maneuver where he resigns, takes the appointment as deputy, then they fire the deputy who becomes the acting U.S. attorney, and then he assumes the role that way. I don't know whether they actually did that move, but that was back in October, and I hadn't noticed this at all. And maybe those of you in the Central District of California were jumping up and down in front of your computers for months saying, what about our guy? Anyway, but back to the other person who has abandoned their post with good reason in the Eastern District of Virginia. Where were we? What was his name again? Robert McBride. There we go. The move to oust McBride, I guess they wanted him out and pushed him out. It was unclear from the first paragraph whether he was resigning and running away because they were scaring the crap out of him or whether they were pushing him out. The move to oust Robert McBride came as the Justice Department continues to say Trump loyalist Lindsay Halligan is the head of the office. A judge has pushed the administration to explain why. It continues to refer to her as such. Then the federal judge in November said, no, this is not working, dismissed the cases. One of the people on off the record, I guess, or on the record, but who remains anonymous because of the same reason that everybody remains anonymous. One of the people said the dispute was about whether McBride would head up any effort to re-indict Comey. So basically they said, all right, the judges in the area won't recognize Halligan as the U.S. attorney, so we'll have somebody else sign the paperwork. Will you? And I guess probably no. So he's out. Two of the people told NBC News that McBride had also met quietly with federal judges behind the backs of administration officials in an effort to get appointed acting U.S. attorney by the court. Don't forget that that's one of the options there. If they can't fill the vacancy with a nominee from the president, the court itself meets and the judges will select someone to serve in that role as in an acting capacity. Justice Department leadership backed the move to dismiss him, those two people said. And by the way, they can dismiss him, fire him, and nonetheless, I mean, if the judges do get together and decide to select a U.S. attorney to serve in an acting capacity, they could choose him despite the fact that he's been fired, I think, right? Couldn't they just nominate him to that job? McBride did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A spokesperson for the Eastern District of Virginia declined to comment as well. So everybody's now declining to comment. They're afraid. But we've got to the end of this particular bit. Anyway, so Robert McBride, who would ordinarily, I suppose, if they gave up on Lindsay Halligan, be next in line, doesn't really want anything to do with it either. And I don't think they're giving up on Lindsay Halligan. You got to have a head of hair and a good makeup kit in order to get Donald Trump's attention in a job like this. All right, more about what's going on there after this brief break. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. There's more to learn about wackadoodle attorney Lindsay Halligan. She is an attorney. We can't deny her that. But let's see, where is this? I just opened it, too. Now I don't know where it has gone to, but I can open it all over again if I need to. But that's surprising. Okay, well, back to the drawing board then. And then when I open it, then the tab will flip open and I will say, there it is. Okay, there it is. It's Democracy Docket. Thank you, Democracy Docket, for reporting on this story. Jacob Knutson had this on January 13th. Disqualified Trump appointee Halligan accuses judge, how do you like that, of, quote, gross abuse of power for questioning her authority. I can't believe it. Lindsay Halligan, the loyalist lawyer, she's the loyalist. She's not the most loyal necessarily, although that may also be true, but she, as a loyal person, a loyalist. The loyalist lawyer President Donald Trump handpicked to prosecute his enemies last year has accused a federal judge of abusing his power by asking her to explain how she remains the top federal prosecutor in Eastern Virginia after a court formally disqualified her more than a month ago. Could you please tell us what you're thinking? Halligan's response to the judge on Tuesday, I guess last week, a remarkably defiant document that strains the boundaries of standard legal rhetoric and logic, represents the Department of Justice's latest pugilistic attempt to keep her at the helm of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia, one of the largest and most prestigious federal prosecutor offices in the country. I suppose behind the district for the District of Columbia, where, Weinbach's lady has taken over. So maybe that boosts the profile of the Eastern District. Well, this one's in the hands of wackos and drunks. What do you got in EDVA? Oh, another one? Rats. Okay, where to next? A sovereign district of New York, I suppose. In November, U.S. District Judge Cameron Curry determined that Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi circumvented the Constitution and federal law, if that's a big deal anymore, in appointing Halligan to lead the office. She then dismissed the DOJ's criminal indictments against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, 2 cases that Halligan alone brought just days after her appointment, which tells you how carefully she considered them. Then, last week, which would now be going on 2 weeks ago, U.S. District Judge David Novak She ordered Halligan to explain how her continued identification as the top federal prosecutor in Eastern Virginia did not amount to making false or misleading statements to a court. That's what's happening. And why he shouldn't strike her identification as a U.S. attorney from a criminal indictment secured after her disqualification. It's a good set of questions. In response, Halligan characterized Novak's questions as, quote, a thinly veiled threat against her authority, and claimed the previous unlawful appointment ruling only prevented her from working the dismissed cases against Comey and James. And remember, this is a very typical response, legal type, it's not legal, but legal type response from Trump's legal type teams. They constantly are doing this. If you try to do X and the judge says you are not permitted to do, here in the Eastern District of Virginia, I say you cannot do, you lose the case. You can't do this X thing that you're trying to do. They will say, that doesn't mean I can't do X if I do it twice at the same time. It doesn't mean I can't do X to a different person. It doesn't mean I can't do X to somebody in a different district. And, of course, now I say, well, I don't even believe you that I can't do X right here to this person that is involved in the case. They love to do this. You said I was dismissed from the Comey and James cases because I'm not the U.S. attorney. That doesn't mean I'm dismissed from these other cases because I'm not the U.S. attorney. Oh, yeah, it does. I'm saying that you're not the U.S. attorney. So any place where you claim that you are the U.S. attorney, you're going to get the same result as you got with the James and Comey cases. That's called logic. Can you get your head around it? No. You didn't say I wasn't allowed on this case. This court, she says, appears to be under the misimpression that because Judge Curry's rationale for dismissing the indictments was her conclusion that Ms. Halligan was unlawfully appointed, the United States must acquiesce to that rationale in all other cases, or else it is ignoring Judge Curry's orders. The response, which was authored by Halligan, in what capacity, I don't know, states that's literally her answer. You thought I was kidding. This court appears to be under the misimpression that just because Judge Curry said I'm not the U.S. attorney and any cases I bring by myself and with no other lawful authority behind it are invalid, doesn't mean that any case that I bring similarly with no other legal authority is invalid. It does mean that. And I can't believe you graduated law school, but you have the right to stand there and say it doesn't apply. You will lose 100% of the time unless there's just no law anymore, which, is maybe the actual state of things. Well, next paragraph. The bottom line is that Ms. Halligan has not misrepresented anything. And the court is flat wrong to suggest that any change to the government's signature block is warranted in this or any other case. Wow. Halligan did not explain why she and the DOJ have repeatedly identified her as full U.S. attorney, not acting, not interim, nothing. She's just the U.S. attorney, period. They have not explained why they now identify her as such. dropping, as it says, any other indication that she may be interim or acting from her title, though she was never confirmed by the Senate or by federal judges in the Eastern District of Virginia. The two methods by which someone can come to, well, I guess third methods by which someone can come to the job in an acting or interim capacity. I got to stop playing that clip. One, you're named by the president, you're confirmed by the Senate. Two, you could be installed as interim or acting for a temporary period by the U.S. attorney. Three, I guess, you could be named by, the court if there's been a vacancy for long enough and the DOJ isn't acting. And I guess the other way is if the then incumbent U.S. attorney leaves and you're the deputy or somebody that's in line for that promotion, you could get that again in a temporary capacity. Last year, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals assigned Curry, who is normally based in South Carolina, to hear Comey and James's arguments that their cases should be dismissed because Halligan was illegally carrying out the powers of a U.S. attorney when she sought the indictments against them. The Fourth Circuit ordered Curry to hear Comey's and James's arguments because the judges in Eastern Virginia had a conflict of interest in Halligan's appointment. They had selected her predecessor. Before he appointed Halligan, Trump forced Eric Siebert, the judge's pick to lead the U.S. Attorney's Office, forced him out of that post for raising concerns about the viability of bringing charges against Comey and James. Halligan claimed Curry's order was solely limited to the Comey and James cases. Again, literally just saying it says in this paper I'm dismissed from these two cases. And I believe that that's wrong. But on top of it, it doesn't mean anything outside of these two cases. The ruling is confined to the four corners of the page here. However, the judge was specifically appointed to consider Halligan's appointment, qualification, or disqualification in both the Comey and James cases and in other cases involving similar challenges against Halligan's appointment. That was his charge. But she says, so what? I don't care what his charge was. I'm not doing it. And while she did not explicitly state that Halligan was disqualified in her unlawful appointment order, Curry ruled that federal judges in Eastern Virginia had the authority to appoint a new interim U.S. attorney to replace Halligan, which strongly implied Halligan's disqualification. It's about as strongly implied as you could make it. Though Halligan argued Curry's order only precluded her from working on the now dismissed cases, she has also identified herself as a U.S. attorney in one of the DOJ's attempts to re-indict James. So even in her cockamamie theory that, it only dismisses me from the James and Comey cases, I won't recognize the dismissal of my authority in other cases because it doesn't say that. It only says that I'm dismissed from the Comey and James cases. I know it's very confusing because it's James Comey, but Letitia James. And even after saying, well, it's only applying to those two cases, even so, in 50% of the cases she's been directly dismissed from, she's still signing paperwork as the U.S. attorney there. It's really super crazy. And I get, the stakes are lower, I guess, directly speaking, but it's every bit as crazy as the Greenland play, just in terms of nothing matters. LOL, YOLO, nothing matters. It's pretty bad. One more article that I put away that mentions Lindsay Halligan from about the same time period. This is also from the 13th. It's in Politico. DOJ says Halligan is still a U.S. attorney, despite a judge disqualifying her. It's not just Halligan saying it, although it's not clear to me whether this is a story about other DOJ officials or whether other DOJ officials are just saying, well, we've got her back if she says she is one. Let's see what's going on. The Justice Department says the disqualification was limited to two cases. Hassan Ali Kanu has done the reporting here. The Trump administration told the federal judge on Tuesday that attorney Lindsay Halligan remains the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, despite the disqualification. The Justice Department laid out its position, I guess this is the same one maybe, in an unusually fiery filing before U.S. District Judge David Novak, who ordered officials earlier this month to explain why Halligan continues to act and to identify herself in court papers as U.S. Attorney for the district. All right. Maybe there's some other excerpts, though, which are kind of interesting. In a response to Novak, signed by Attorney General Pam Bondi and Halligan herself, the Justice Department said Curry's ruling only applied to the James and Comey cases. Their filing directly questioned both Novak and Curry's judgment, adding that the courts lack authority to strike the title of U.S. Attorney from Halligan's name in court filings. Oh, really? To answer the court's inquisition directly, the basis for Ms. Halligan's identification of herself as the United States Attorney, notwithstanding Judge Curry's contrary ruling, is that in the government's view, Ms. Halligan is the United States Attorney. There you go. That's what the Justice Department wrote. The actual Justice Department of the United States of America. Judge Curry's ruling did not and could not require the United States to acquiesce to her contrary and erroneous legal reasoning outside of those cases. Also, by the way, now inside of one of those cases. Curry's November ruling held that Halligan's appointment violated the Constitution's appointment clause, invalidated all actions flowing from the defective appointment, and held that the power to appoint a top prosecutor to replace Halligan lies with the district court until the Senate confirms a nominee. All right. Justice Department criticized Novak for even asking for an explanation, saying it violated procedural rules and was a fundamental and rudimentary error. The Justice Department shared its response to Novak in an exclusive with Fox News. The underlying case before Novak is a criminal bank robbery complaint unrelated to the series of indictments and cases Halligan and other prosecutors have leveled against Trump's foes at the president's request. So just your straight run-of-the-mill, well, if there's any such thing as a run-of-the-mill bank robbery, but a straight criminal complaint against somebody who's not, as far as we know, any political enemy of Trump's. And being that he's a bank robber, I assume he may even be an ally. Oh, and that reminds me, one of the things over the weekend, and I don't even know if I put anything aside on it, which that'd be crazy if I didn't, but I have to thumb through what's in Instapaper here. But in case you were wondering how long it would be. I mean, we've been watching Trump's crazy pardons for a long time. And of course, with the craziest of them, among them being the January 6th blanket pardon. And we've seen January 6th defendants and convicts get their pardons and go off right back to their, essentially back to their life of crime. So we've seen that. And in some cases, in most of those cases, they've become involved in something other than a January 6th related crime, just showing that they're kind of bad seeds as it is. And, because they're Republican sympathizers, a significant portion of those crimes have been sex crimes involving children, because that's just the way it is with Republicans. Anyway, not all of them have been, but a few of them have been January 6th related, which then poses the interesting question of whether or not their second indictment should likewise be dismissed because of the nature of the blanket pardon. And I'm thinking in particular, I don't remember the name of the defendant, but somebody who was convicted on the January 6th crime on the basis of testimony of an FBI agent who investigated the case and appeared as a witness and got the guy convicted in the first place. And when he received his pardon, and maybe even before he received his pardon, he launched a conspiracy with some friends to find and murder the FBI agent who got him convicted on the January 6th charges. Not content with having been sprung from jail even after a good conviction, he now seeks to murder the FBI agent, gets caught plotting that, and says, oh, but you can't try me for that. It's January 6th related. I've been pardoned for all that stuff. And I guess they have to wrestle with that. I don't know whether they have yet or whether they're still briefing that, but that's kind of insane all by itself. But there also have been a number of people who have gotten pardons for various other crimes, and very frequently, I guess Trump's favorite crime for which he pardons people appears to be fraud. If you've been accused of fraud, he feels this is government heavy-handedness, because of course he's been accused and convicted of fraud, and figures all such cases are likely over prosecution by the government. More so if you have $1 million, that if you had $1 million that was in your hand, but then it somehow ended up in Donald Trump's hand, he would think with greater conviction that anyone seeking your conviction was clearly over prosecuting the case, and he'll pardon you. And there have been a couple of people who have been pardoned in that context, not from January 6th, and then gone on to, return to their life of crime because they're recidivists and bad seeds in general, as we've said. But it hadn't yet come to pass that someone pardoned for anything had received a second pardon unrelated to the first crime. But now we've broken that barrier as well. So isn't that exciting that we have this to catch up on? Although now I'm looking around and I don't even see the article, which is insane because I'm almost certain I must have put that aside, right? And yet now I'm going to have to go searching for it instead, and I'm sure it'll come up. But let's see. Second pardon. This was in another batch of highly questionable pardons issued, I think, heading into the weekend, including a pardon for somebody who was being referred to as the outhouse kingpin, but somebody who basically ran one of those porta potty companies. And I guess their competitive advantage was, while all of their competitors were paying whatever it costs as part of the business, the cost of doing business, of emptying the waste in these porta potties into a septic system of some kind so that it would go run through a water treatment plant or God knows what. He just said, well, why should I be paying the cost of trucking these things all over creation and bringing them to water treatment plants or septic systems when I can just tip them over and dump them in the creek over here? And they're that much lighter to put on the truck when you empty them out that way. Oh, is that bad? Is that fraud? Oh, I've been convicted? Oh, no. Imagine like saying, yeah, that's a guy to pardon. Like, it's weird that any of these things would reach Trump's ear. Like, normally it's a much higher profile or more controversial case that you even get anywhere near the pardon attorney, much less the president. But, it's just straight up, holy cow, I can't believe that the outhouse kingpin's family has donated so much money to me and the things that I like. What do you know? Let's pardon him. Anyway, the double pardon is reported on here by CNN. It was pretty easy to find. Trump's double pardon underscores sweeping use of clemency. A January 17th updated article. Like I said, going into the weekend and then Saturday, some updates. What's the updates? I don't know. Somebody who's been failing to curb their dog and not picking up the dog poop has been pardoned. I don't know. All right, who's reporting here? Betsy Klein, Alejandro Jaramillo, or do you say Jaramillo? Alejandra, I don't know. And Kanita Iyer, Iyer, reporting that President Donald Trump has leaned into his presidential clemency powers, although it's very difficult to tell. He just naturally leans forward all the time anyway, so I know it's supposed to be a figure of speech, but he's always leaning into everything. Leaned into his presidential clemency powers much more aggressively in his second term. In fact, he's pardoned one woman twice. Trump granted a slew of pardons on Friday, including one for Adriana Camberos, who was convicted for a second time after Trump commuted her sentence during his first term. The latest pardon was for a 2024 conviction related to a scheme that the Justice Department said involved deception in her resale of wholesale groceries and other goods. And who ever heard of groceries? That can't even be a crime. Kamberos's 2021 pardon centered around unrelated fraud. Just, I like to do fraud in a lot of places, and this is just another of them. Well, the move falls squarely within presidential clemency powers, and maybe it doesn't and shouldn't. It is unusual, at least. We can say that much.
That's unusual!
You are, yes, correct. Thank you very much. A president absolutely does have the power to grant the same person two different pardons on two different cases, even if they're sequential. The pardon power itself is essentially unlimited, says CNN senior legal analyst Eli Honig. And it's true. While rare, Jeffrey Crouch, an associate professor at American University, pointed out that Trump, during his first term, granted a form of clemency twice to the same person. I didn't realize that had happened, but I guess it did. So if you, like my fun joke of how long will it take to get to the first person to be pardoned twice, and the answer is now, that's not even the answer. How dumb is that? It's at least 5 years ago instead. Who even knew? So while it is rare, Jeffrey Crouch says, this guy's done it twice. And I don't mean the guy who was pardoned for crimes getting done it twice. I mean, the president has now twice pardoned the same person 2 times. There are 2 forms of clemency available to a president, a pardon and a commutation, both of which apply only to federal charges, unless you're Tina Peters, and to hell with everything. A pardon everything moved around, of course. A pardon fully erases a federal conviction, while a commutation lessens the sentence. You got it? Now, he commuted Roger Stone's prison sentence in July of 2020, and then granted him a full pardon in December of 2020. I see what they're saying. So Crouch told CNN in an email, and he commuted current pardon czar Alice Marie Johnson's prison sentence. In June of 2018, and then granted her a full pardon in August of 2020. Is Alice Marie Johnson not? It says pardon czar. Is she handling pardons for Trump because she's got experience with him? She's been pardoned? Is that what's going on? Oh my gosh. So, all right, there's, although this, I guess that's why I was seeing, although rare, right? While rare, Jeffrey Crouch says that this does happen. This happens, or sometimes you'll grant someone clemency and then say, all right, let her out of prison, and then later say, you know what, full pardon. I have seen that before, but usually it's because of the same crime. It's very rare that someone gets pardoned, goes out, and then uses their second chance at life to commit a different crime and then needs a pardon again and gets it, as opposed to people saying, you know what, I gave you your chance. What can I tell you? You are a bad seed. You belong in jail. Last year, Trump issued a second pardon to Dan Wilson, a militia member involved in the January 6th Capitol riot, covering separate firearm offenses that were not included in Trump's initial sweeping pardon of January 6th rioters. I wonder if that's the guy we were thinking of. The White House said the gun charges were ultimately related to the January 6th investigation. More broadly, the acts of clemency for Kamberos, pardoned for 2 unrelated crimes years apart, underscore and emboldened Trump. How do you like that? Emboldened, who has escalated his use of clemency, far outpacing his first term and even most recent predecessors. 1 year into his second term, Trump has issued roughly 1,609 pardons and clemencies, compared to, let's say, 148 in 4 years during his first term. But of course, January 6th accounts for a lot of those. Setting aside the approximately 1,500 January 6th related pardons, Trump has still granted a stunning 100 times more clemencies than he did at this point during his first term. Easy math, because he had just done 1 at this point in his first term, and he's done 100 now. Former President Joe Biden did not issue any pardons or clemency grants during his first year in office, but over the course of his presidency, Biden granted roughly 80 individual pardons, according to the Department of Justice, and granted a record 4,245 commutations, according to Pew Research Center. A large portion of those addressed nonviolent drug-related offenses, and I think everybody remembers those. Trump has used his pardon power much more liberally than Biden, nearly 21 times as many pardons. Former President Barack Obama granted 212 pardons over his 2 full terms, according to the Justice Department's official clemency records. While Obama issued more individual pardons than Trump did during his first term, Trump's second-term actions, particularly the sweeping pardon cited January 6th, dramatically expand his overall use of the pardon power, surpassing Obama's. That's actually not the super interesting part. The super interesting part is how he gets paid for pardons, and everybody knows it. Hi, everybody. It's me, David, still your host for the Kagro in the Morning Show after all these years. Thank you for all your continuing support for the show. And if you're listening regularly and still thinking about getting on board as a supporter, well, the time is now. Patreon.com is the easiest way to make recurring subscription-style payments every month, all year round, to keep us going. patreon.com/KagroX brings you to our page where you can sign up with your monthly support. And hey, have you seen our clever new subscription tiers? It's easier than ever to sign up for, say, $1 crisp bill for every information-packed 2-hour show. If you're the plan ahead type, there's even a year-long subscription program that saves you 15% on the cover price. Or it would if there was a cover price, or even a cover, for that matter. patreon.com/KAGROX. Thanks again for all your support. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We still have more to read from the second of the pardon, actually, I guess the first of the pardon articles, but the CNN one. And we're getting down to some of the more interesting stuff here. I will skip over the rest about the statistics, I think, although interesting comment from Eli Honig, which, everyone will say, what are you saying this for? It is unusual historically. Once again, that is unusual. That's unusual! To see pardons granted this early and this frequently in a presidency. Most presidents tend to wait until the very end of their presidencies, often granting the bulk of their pardons on the last day in office. Donald Trump is just granting pardons on a rolling basis, and doing so, he says, quote, might actually be a credit to him. I don't know about that, because it shows that he's willing to take on whatever political consequences come with it, Honig added. Although, I guess we should not leave out the fact that it seems like there are no political consequences for him, so it's not that he's willing to accept them, it's that he believes there will be none, but okay. But he does mention, it's always been seen as a little bit of a sneaking out the door type phenomenon to drop your pardons on the last day, and I think that's probably true. Now, what about this Trump pardon czar business? Like, there's a pardon attorney. That's a real job in the Department of Justice. And sometimes you'll involve the White House counsel in pardon wrangling for whatever reason. But what's this pardon czar business? One of the key officials leading the way for Trump has felt the firsthand impact of the president's clemency. Trump named Alice Marie Johnson as White House pardon czar, a first-of-its-kind role, in February. Johnson, a first-time nonviolent drug offender, served 21 years of a life sentence after she was convicted on drug-related charges. Trump commuted her sentence in 2018, and in 2020 granted her a full pardon. Johnson emerged as a top criminal justice reform advocate and became close with the president's daughter and former advisor, Ivanka Trump. You've been an inspiration to people, and we're going to be listening to your recommendation on pardons, Trump told Johnson at a Black History Month event at the White House announcing her appointment. He continued, "You're going to find people just like you. You're going to look and you're going to make recommendations, and I'll follow those recommendations, okay, for pardons. Don't recommend me anything, like reforming the criminal justice system so that fewer black people are sentenced to prison. I'm not going to listen to that. Anyway, January 6th rioters, political allies, and donors is the title of the next subsection here. So guess what that's about? Guided by Johnson. Somehow she was interested in this. In close coordination with the Department of Justice and the White House counsel's office, Trump's second-term pardons have fallen into a few key categories. There's the January 6th pardons, granted on Inauguration Day, and in a category all their own, Trump issued a full, complete, and unconditional pardon to nearly every person who was convicted of attacking the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, marking the end of a sweeping four-year Justice Department probe. That included Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the far-right Proud Boys, who was convicted of seditious conspiracy and sentenced to 22 years in prison, along with members of other far-right extremist groups like the Oath Keepers and those who violently attacked police officers. And then there are other actions Trump's taken to go after what he has called injustice and politically motivated persecutions. In November, Trump pardoned a long list of political allies who supported or were involved in plans to overturn the 2020 presidential election, including former Trump lawyers Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, among dozens of others. It was framed, according to Justice Department pardon attorney Ed Martin, crazy as that is, as, quote, ending a grave national injustice. And the president granted clemency to Mark Bashaw, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but it's what it looks like, an officer who formerly served at the Army Public Health Center and was convicted by a special court-martial of violating lawful orders to comply with COVID-19 mitigation measures per the Army Times. Then there are the clemency actions that have shown a pattern of rewarding individuals with close ties to financing Trump's political orbit. For example, a family member of Julio Herrera Velutini, who received a pardon from Trump on Friday related to misdemeanor charges, has close financial ties to Trump-related political entities. Herrera's daughter, Isabella Herrera, has donated millions of dollars to the Trump-aligned super PAC MAGA Incorporated, according to campaign finance filings. There was also a pardon for Trevor Milton, the CEO of now-defunct hydrogen and electric truck firm Nikola. By the way, I assume that refers to Nikola Tesla. So this is very interesting. Like, what should we name our electric vehicle company? Tesla. Oh, that's already taken. All right, Nikola. That's just dumb. All right. Anyway, CEO of now defunct hydrogen and electric truck firm Nikola. The president said this was in part because he believed Milton was persecuted for supporting Trump's political ambitions. You know how that goes. Everybody's getting persecuted for that. Milton and his wife notably donated more than $1.8 million to a Trump re-election campaign fund, according to public records. Some of Trump's actions have focused on tech and cryptocurrency deregulation. Trump, a former crypto skeptic who did a 180 on the alternative financial assets while running for a second term and being, lavished with coins and such, as a result, has pledged to make the U.S. the, quote, crypto capital of the planet, which is actually more difficult than I think he anticipated. And so he's probably, my guess is he's going to suddenly attempt, he's going to say he has made, you know what, Venezuela is the crypto capital of the planet. I thought it was going to be El Salvador. We had a deal with El Salvador, but he won't let me take over El Salvador. But now I've captured the Venezuelan president. Venezuela's mine. I am the president of Venezuela. And I'm going to make it the crypto capital of the world. Maybe also Greenland. We'll see how that goes. Trump pardoned Binance founder Changpeng Zhao, CZ as they call the guy, who pleaded guilty to a money laundering charge in 2023. A prosecution to Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was part of the Biden administration's war on cryptocurrency. You see? We're like the war on protein. We keep arresting protein and sentencing it to jail. The Trump family has also established direct financial links to Binance through its crypto empire, but whatever. He also granted a pardon to Ross William Ulbricht, the founder of the Silk Road dark web marketplace, who had been serving a life sentence on charges related to the e-commerce site that the Justice Department had once described as the most sophisticated and extensive criminal marketplace on the internet today. So let's get rid of that. And Trump pardoned a trio of founders of cryptocurrency exchange BitMEX, Arthur Hayes, Ben Dalo, and Samuel Reed. There's also been a pattern of clemencies granted to political leaders and other VIPs. Trump pardoned former governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, who was sent to prison on corruption charges surrounding his time in office. Blagojevich appeared on Trump's reality show, The Celebrity Apprentice, in 2010. So that's as good a reason for a pardon as any. Another contestant from that season, baseball legend Darryl Strawberry, received a pardon for a 1995 tax evasion charge. So if you're on a show and you're in jail, and if those two things go hand in hand, what can I tell you? He'll pardon you for that. That's interesting. I mean, I guess if I put it past him now, I would think, if you told me what are the odds of that, I would say Trump already got what he wanted out of you. Why is he going to pardon you? And I think maybe that's kind of where he is now, unless they, came up with millions of dollars for him. There was a pardon for the billionaire British investor Joe Lewis, the former owner of the Tottenham Hotspurs, who has pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit securities fraud, and clemency for former New York Congressman Michael Grimm, who served 7 months in prison for tax evasion a decade ago. In one of his more controversial moves, Trump pardoned former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who had been convicted on drug trafficking charges. I mean, big time, but whatever. Trump received bipartisan criticism for the action, which some lawmakers said was at odds with his administration's efforts to take aim at drug cartels, but Trump cast Hernandez's conviction as a Biden horrible witch hunt. That's a quote. Biden horrible witch hunt. Trump on Friday pardoned former Puerto Rico Governor Wanda Vasquez, who pleaded guilty to a campaign finance violation last summer. Vasquez, along with two co-defendants whom Trump also pardoned, was facing time behind bars after the Justice Department brought bribery charges connected to the financing of her 2020 campaign. All 2020 campaigns were rigged, I guess, according to Trump. All right. Did I find... I'm pretty sure I went searching for and must have opened up, probably on this side of my tabs. There we are. The thing about the outhouse kingpin I mentioned to you. And at this point, this was where I was like, I don't even know how these cases are reaching Trump's ear. I mean, it's money, I guess, is the answer. But where are these guys getting the money? And I guess the answer is dumping raw sewage to save money on their porta potty company. But I mean, how much could that possibly be worth? Why? I don't understand. Like, can I get $10 together? No. How about me? Can I make $1 million? Well, what's your business proposal? I'm going to put some boxes out and people will crap in them and I'll throw it in the river. Yeah. $1 million. What am I doing? All right. Well, anyway, because it's a rather obscure thing and I'm curious, like, how this stuff reaches Trump's ear. And I know that the answer is probably money, but still, it did motivate me to say, I'm beginning to suspect that you could literally just forge yourself one of these things. I mean, he takes pictures of them and puts them on Truth Social. So, like, you could forge up some White House stationery and grab his signature off the internet. And I mean, it wouldn't matter whether it was professionally written, your pardon, because none of them are professionally written. So just say, I pardon myself for all the stuff. Like, here's Diddy running around looking to get a pardon, can't get it out of Trump. Make it up. Forge it. See if they let you out of prison based on it. I don't know. Maybe it'll work. And I mean, every time they ask Trump about his pardons, he says, you know what? To be honest, I don't know. They recommended it and I said yes. I don't know anything about it. The attorneys reviewed it, right? So forge one, hand it over to the warden of the prison. They'll call the White House and he'll say, I don't know. I have no idea. So maybe they'll let him go. Anyway, the outhouse kingpin story is from Mediaite. Catherine Wilkins wrote this story. Trump pardons outhouse kingpin convicted of illegally dumping raw sewage. Woo-wee. On Thursday, President Donald Trump signed a full and unconditional pardon on toilet paper, interestingly enough, for Diamond Environmental Services owner, is it Ari? I don't know. A-R-I-E. I've never seen an E on the end. But maybe Arie? I don't know. Eric DeJong III, who was sentenced, it's III, by the way, who was sentenced in 2018 to 5 months in prison for illegally dumping raw sewage into municipal sewer systems. Now, so you're talking about a guy in 2018 sentenced to 5 months. So I guess he's done his time. And he's like, what, worried about his reputation? I mean, he's an outhouse guy. What kind of reputation do you need in the business? Anyway, so I guess he must have looked for money to give to Trump to expunge his record on, toilet dumping. What? Like, why did you bother? Why didn't you just say, you know what? If I get $1 million together now, I'm keeping that. I'm in a dirty business. It's gross. I deserve to have a pile of money. Even if I cheated. I guess you could tell yourself. But to then spend the money on the pardon. Well, according to prosecutors, the portable toilet company unlawfully dumped waste from its trucks into public sewer systems across several Southern California cities. I'm sorry, Southern California, to let you know that this happened to you, including San Diego, San Marcos, Fullerton, Paris, and Huntington Park. So, yuck for all you folks who live there, but it's over. Rather than disposing of it, of course, it approved the facilities and paying the required fees, allowing De Jong III to dodge millions in expenses and therefore give some of that dirty poop money to Donald Trump. Anyway, per a copy of the pardon posted by the New York Times' Kenneth Vogel, Trump cleared De Jong III. I'm going to go do all the thirds this way now. Of all felony charges against the United States, to all of which he had pleaded guilty under a 2017 agreement. So, did you do it? Yes. Did you serve the time? Yes. Do you want me to do this anyway? Yes. All right. Give me $1 million. Here's Kenneth Vogel's tweet. It has the picture. You can just make your own based on that picture. I'm telling you. While De Jong III was only sentenced to 5 months behind bars in 2018, and, it's nothing to sneeze at, but anyway, Assistant U.S. Attorney Melanie Pearson advocated for a 12-month sentence, telling the judge that he's a thief, pure and simple, and a stinky, smelly one at that. According to De Jong III at the time, his actions were a huge mistake. He told U.S. District Judge Roger T. Benitez that he, quote, never thought the scheme would get to this level. I don't know what level he thought he was going to, but okay. In addition to De Jong III himself, Diamond Environmental Services was placed on probation. Benitez ordered $2.64 million in fines, along with $2.25 million in restitution to 5 sanitation agencies. The company also agreed to forfeit $2.2 million in profits deemed to have been illegally obtained. So that's the answer. I did my time already. I want the money back. The pardon adds to Trump's growing list of clemency actions, with many awarded to political or personal allies. In early December, he pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez, of course, as we know, who had been sentenced, by the way, to 45 years in prison for drug trafficking, but never mind that. Also this week, the president pardoned convicted fraudster Adriana Camberos, that we talked about before, and her brother, after previously commuting a separate sentence of hers in 2021. What a situation, to say the least. Okay, I guess we're caught up on the weird pardon scene. I don't know. Anyway, meanwhile, rumors persist that Jared Polis is still ruminating over the possibility of clemency or a transfer of facilities even for Tina Peters, to put her in federal custody so that Trump can free her there. I don't know whether he's really considering that or not, or just trying to get some space by appeasing the president in public and not actually doing it. I don't know, but it's out there and it's annoying to see that they keep thinking of this. Virginia news. Usually Greg will bring me my Virginia news, but we'll bring you this. Abigail Spanberger has been inaugurated as governor of the Commonwealth, and that's great news. A couple of very early actions have been really interesting, including her request for, I guess you could say, the resignation of several of the, what do they call them? They're the board of, are they the board of visitors there? Basically the trustees of UVA, and that got very Trumpified down there at UVA as part of the Trump attack on institutions of higher learning everywhere. And through the conduit of the very Trumpy Glenn Youngkin, they basically engineered a new board there and a new president at UVA with the idea that they might try to make it super Trumpy. Anyway, thankfully, UVA has turned around. I guess I'll grab the Washington Post explanation here. After UVA resignations, Spanberger names 27 different people to Virginia College boards. The appointments were announced less than a day after 5 University of Virginia board members, including its leaders and a major donor, resigned under pressure. So, what was that pressure? You damn well better resign, or we're going to find a way to kick you out. So, impressive start for Governor Spanberger. Dan Rosenzweig-Ziff has put the article together for the Washington Post. And, I mean, I don't know how much we need to sort through, although it might be interesting to have the names of the people and the names of the other institutions where fresh blood will be coming in. Let's see. All of the people dismissed or whose resignations she accepted at UVA had been appointed by Glenn Youngkin, whom Democrats have criticized as being overly involved in Virginia's colleges. After the resignation, some conservatives countered that it was the new governor who was politicizing the boards, but too late for that. Sorry, that should not stick. Among Spanberger's picks were former Democratic Governor Ralph Northam to the board of the Virginia Military Institute. In 2020, Northam, a VMI graduate, ordered an investigation into the school's treatment of black students. Spanberger has also made appointments to George Mason University and UVA. That includes former Mason rector Tom Davis, a Republican. You remember him? Once served in Congress? Probably do. And will return 6 years after the hiring of current university president Gregory Washington, a frequent target of conservatives over diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Carlos Brown will return to UVA, where he served as vice rector until July. The appointees, who can immediately take office but must be confirmed by Virginia legislators, mean Spanberger's picks would hold a majority on the boards at George Mason and UVA early in her term. Typically, Virginia governors have appointed about a quarter of university board seats each year. So there you go. That, very important. Let's see, is there any other important names here or places where she's correcting things on the boards? At UVA, anyway, the state's flagship university, Spanberger's new board picks include replacements for the Youngkin appointees she has asked to resign. Board Rector Rachel Sheridan and Vice Rector Porter Wilkinson stepped down on Friday, along with Paul Manning, who's donated $100 million to the university. Stephen Long and Douglas Wetmore, according to letters obtained by the Washington Post and other people familiar with the matter. In their letters, Sheridan and Wilkinson touted their accomplishments on the board and said they hoped the newly appointed university president, Scott C. Beardsley, would be allowed to continue leading the school. Sheridan said her and other members' efforts to do right by the university had become paralyzed through purposeful political warfare. In other words, when the other guys get in, political warfare. When we get in, super awesome something or other. Okay. A couple other names involved in that mentioned in the article. I think we'll probably stop at this point just to let you know that that's going on. Also wanted to throw in here the news from NBC. Virginia lawmakers pass redistricting amendment, ready now to send it to voters for approval. They, you may recall, scrambled prior to the election and then had to scramble again post-election to try to put forth this, the process that they need to go through to put forth a redistricted congressional map to counter what Republicans are doing in at least some Republican-controlled states. If the voters support it, Virginia's Democratic-controlled legislature would be able to redraw the state's congressional map before the midterms. Wow. So just sneaking in before the deadline. And of course, as we've mentioned in the past, one of the more aggressive maps being proposed puts forth a delegation of 11 with one Republican safe seat created out of the entire state. You know, there's some marginal ones, some toss-ups in there, but they all lean Democratic. Is it the way to handle it? Well, I guess this. Tim Kaine, being super cautious, says, well, why don't we do, instead of 10-1, how about 9-2? Except, why not 10-1? I'm sorry. I mean, in another circumstance, I might entertain that. But if the idea is to maximize things because that's what the Republicans are doing elsewhere, you're just going to have to maximize things. Sorry. He may actually believe it, or he may just be saying, I'm going to stake out this position, but wink, wink, 10-1 is fine with me. We'll see. All right. Other items that we might be able to squeeze in here, or maybe that we can't, but we'll try and do it anyway. I don't know. The couple of Blue Sky posts here that I have to open in order to see what they are, but they tend to make... oh, yeah. Okay. That was... the joke about Whiskey Friday from last week. Somebody, Brendel from Blue Sky, saying, I came here to make a Blue Sky, or to make a Whiskey Friday joke, but I see 100 people have already done so. So didn't need to be done. Let's see. I'll throw in one more court case because it's kind of been the focus of the day. Not that we'll make it all the way through. And it's not something we've paid close attention to, but I think it signals an important case and an important direction in the courts as well. Appeals court, says the New York Times, opens the door to Mahmoud Khalil's re-arrest. So you know we must be talking about something weird here. Do you remember Mahmoud Khalil? Any new detention would not come immediately when Mr. Khalil's lawyers plan to appeal, but the ruling is a major blow to Khalil, a Columbia graduate. See what's coming here, and prominent figure in the pro-Palestinian movement. That's the subheader. Jonah E. Bromwich does the reporting. This is from January 15th, just last week. An appeals court on Thursday reopened the possibility that Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia University graduate and pro-Palestinian protester jailed for months by the Trump administration, could be detained as the government seeks to deport him. Gotta let him out of jail, but maybe you have to put him back in while we do a deportation action. Khalil's rearrest would not come immediately, and his lawyers still plan to appeal. Still, the ruling from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit marks a major blow to Mr. Khalil, whose case became an early and high-profile example of the White House's crackdown on pro-Palestinian speech. A legal permanent resident whose wife and son are American, Mr. Khalil was the first of a number of students to be arrested after participating in demonstrations on college campuses against Israel's war in Gaza. He was arrested in March and detained for more than 3 months in Louisiana, even as others in similar situations were released by the courts. He was also prevented from being present for the birth of his son. In a split opinion, 2 of the 3 judges on the appeals court, Thomas Hardiman and Stefanos Bibas, found that the New Jersey district judge who oversaw Mr. Khalil's petition for release was not the proper authority to have ruled on it. The matter should have been initially addressed by an immigration court, the majority said, but a Third Circuit judge, it's just coincidentally that we're talking about the Third Circuit, but a third judge from the Third Circuit, Ariana J. Freeman, disagreed, saying that Mr. Khalil had claimed that the government violated his fundamental rights and proved that he was irreparably injured during his detention, so he should be before a regular federal judge, not just a immigration judge. Judge Hardiman was appointed by George W. Bush, Bibas by Trump during his first term, Freeman by Biden. Baher Azmi, a lawyer with the Center for Constitutional Rights who represents Mr. Khalil, said, "We are disappointed with and strongly disagree with the majority opinion, but take heart in the very powerful and persuasive dissenting opinion. We'll continue to fight with all available legal options." We'll see where it goes. In a statement on Thursday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, "If you sympathize with terrorists, your presence is contrary to the national and foreign policy interests of the United States. You're not welcome here." Oh, well, First Amendment notwithstanding, I guess. And so what can I tell you? Bad news on the horizon here. They seem to be able to keep their options open in the courts every once in a while. And there's just no satisfying these guys. What can I tell you? All right, time for us to wrap up and get out of here. We got some more family business to attend to later on this day, but we should be back on the air for tomorrow. Greg rejoins us on Wednesday, and we'll see whether it gets any crazier or threaten to invade anybody else, or actually finally invade anybody else, or whether they decide to cancel their joint Arctic defense exercises with us in the next couple of weeks, too. All right, time to hand things over to Justice Putnam for the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy this Monday morning, starting off in his Bistro Cafe. Hey, it's our NATO allies. Welcome. Sit down, have a bagel. Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, and the Netherlands, and Norway, and Sweden, and the United Kingdom, all of them releasing a joint statement blasting Trump's 25th Amendment level tariff threats over Greenland. We didn't even get to that. It was the nature of the latest threats. He's going to put tariffs on all of them, which will pay unless they give up Greenland. That is actually 25th Amendment level. Not just the idea of occupying Greenland, but the idea that these tariffs are supposed to work. By the way, Supreme Court should be ruling on that any day, whether he even has that power. But let's wait a little longer. All right, what else has he got? Look, a former Oregon Republican ousted for supporting abortion rights and trans care is running as an independent. That seems like interesting news as well.
Radio.com. You have been listening to Kagro in the morning with David Waldman.
Look at this. A Trump aide has ditched his lawsuit against the Daily Beast, I guess, because Discovery threatened to reveal administration insiders' secrets. And MAGA defends the state murder of a white woman if they are awful. You know what we're talking about. That's their new favorite acronym about affluent white female urban liberals.